Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm Rollshambo, the connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny. This is the Bestechman Dundee, and I am very excited because today it is finally available. I've waited about 3 weeks to be able to tell you that. It's October 14th, and in my description is a link where you can buy this knife if you are interested. It's highly accessible, $45. And I'm very, very excited about it. Listen to this. That's the sound of the best detent in the world at $50 or less. I said what I said. It's highly accessible. It's highly attractive. It's one of those knives that you don't have to make a lot of excuses for. And at that price range, it's also something that you can go ahead and replace if you lose or damage. And if you don't want to replace it, you can send it to Bestechman and they will warranty it. How good their warranty is, I don't know. I don't use my knives as pry bars, so I've never broken off a chunk of the tip and been like, I need to call the warranty company. I'll probably have that happen at some point. I digress. I've had this knife for long enough to answer all the tough questions. And now that I have, the only question left to answer is the Bestechman Dundee a Grail? Or is it garbage? All right, guys, this is the Bestechman Dundee, and I am ready to rank it. If you're interested in what our current leaderboard looks like, I will put it on the screen. Forgive my fingerprints, this blade is very shiny and very polished. So yeah, currently the leading knife on our leaderboard is the Grant Gripper. It's the only Grail that I have ranked thus far. And if you're wondering how the ranking system works, it goes a little bit like this. We have a total of 5 categories. Those categories are materials, ergonomics, fidget factor, the lock, and of course fit and finish. Each category has a max potential of 10 points apiece with a max potential score once added up of 50. If it's anywhere in the range of 31 or higher, it is what's considered a high recommend. If it's a high recommend, it's something that I could recommend to just about anybody. Anything lower than a 31 is a low recommend, and then below that is a garbage. Anything above 40 is a Grail. So I've ranked a ton of knives, and just so you know, I weigh everything against the value of the knife. So for example, if it costs a lot, I expect it to have really good materials and to hit those categories really well. If it doesn't cost a lot, I'm going to be a lot more lenient on it because it doesn't cost a lot. So yeah, we're talking about this because this Bestechman Dundee is $45. At that price point, I'm going to rename it the Bestechman Dundee because it's a steal at $45. Here's what I mean. The first category is materials. It's got contoured G10 handle scales, recessed steel liner, a titanized D2 blade. It's got a stamped pocket clip. So yeah, seems pretty basic, right? Well, at $45, it already has better materials than the Demko 80-20.5, which for comparisons, I will go ahead and put that out there. So here's what I mean. Grivery handle scales Oz 10A, $150. G10 Titanized D2, $45. And before you tell me about low production, just remember, this was made in Taiwan. The work was also outsourced. So yeah, there's no excuse there. In fact, the G10 handle scales for this Demko 80-20.5 cost $50, which is $5 more than what you could spend to get a whole one of those. So with that being said, the materials on here for that price are actually pretty good. You're not getting 9CR13 MOV or, some steel that's really long and numbery. You're getting D2 G10, and it's a titanized D2. I did go over the titanizing in my last video, so if you're interested in that, make sure you watch the first impressions. And guys, for that reason, the materials are getting a 7 out of 10, because at that price point, Contour G10 and Titanized D2 is very, very good for $45. The next category is ergonomics. Now, I already kind of hinted at it, but this has these contoured G10 handle scales. Now, these handle scales do have some grip to them. They're not just polished over, which I like. And you can also get this knife in micarta if you want a little more texture to that grip. And it's also the same contouring that's going on there. That contouring is great. So many knives out there that have G10 handle scales, they say, you know what, G10 handle scales, let's do flat slabs, kind of like this Spyderco Paramilitary 2. Look at that. They said, here's some flat slabs, we'll be okay with that. The reason why that contouring is so nice is because it fits well in the hand. Now, part of the ergonomics is the pocket clip, and the pocket clip plays a big role, especially when it's a stamped pocket clip and not a 3D milled one. So that pocket clip with those contour G10 handle scales really disappears in your hand. You don't really notice it. If you don't like it, good news. Hold your knife.
And it's gone.
All right. So that contouring is great. The other part of the ergonomics is this cutout for the lock bar. And the lock bar itself actually plays a role in the comfort. Let me see if I can show you up close here. That's a crowned lock bar. And the lock bar relief is also chamfered and contoured. And so it's very comfortable to hold. Your finger just rests there naturally. The other part of the ergonomics is this jimping on the spine of the blade. You see that jimping? It is the same length as my thumb. That's perfect because your thumb rests there naturally. So automatically you get all the grip that you need, and it's aggressive enough to hold your thumb in place, but not aggressive enough to tear skin off your thumb and be uncomfortable. No, this is something that you can handle and hold and play with for hours. And I can say that because I have. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and give ergonomics on this knife a solid 8 out of 10. There's nothing too crazy going on here. It's very comfortable, but it's also not the most comfortable knife that I've ever held in my hand. So 8 out of 10 on ergonomics is pretty damn good. The next category is the Fidget Factor. And guys, this is really one of my favorite categories for this knife because the action on it is just so good. If you watch Jim Skelton's video on this knife, he mentioned that the action is every bit as good as it is on a lot of his custom knives that cost $1,000, $2,000. And I believe him because that's just so freaking good. It's fidgety for more than just the deployment reasons. Here's what I mean. Part of the Fidget Factor, part of what makes you want to pick this knife up and play with it is two main things. First is the detent, which gives you the ability to have this fire out with authority the moment you break that detent. And the other part is the bearings. Now, I've had plenty of knives on bearings that don't have actions this good, but when the bearings are well executed and the detent is well executed, you could do this for hours. A close third is this crowned lock bar that I already mentioned. Because that is crowned, it's very comfortable to engage and disengage at will. I could do this and just mindlessly flick away for hours. That's fun. Now, it's not perfect. It's almost perfect, but it's not perfect. And here's what I mean. I want this much access to the fuller on this side, because I'm guessing that most of you are probably right-handed. It's just statistics. Now, good news is that if you are a lefty, you can move that pocket clip over to the other side, and you do have plenty of access to that fuller. So if you're a lefty, guys, there it is. That's the kind of fidgeting that we could do if that, as you can see, I'm not left-handed. But with that much access to the fuller, and it's a beautiful, beautiful fuller. With that much access to the fuller, this would be perfect for fidgeting. It would be the most fidgety knife. As it stands, I'm using it as an excuse to get good at fidgeting with knives with my left hand, to bring up some dexterity. And for a left-handed fidgeter, for someone like me who's right-hand dominant, that's pretty great. There's not a whole lot of my knives that I feel comfortable fidgeting with my left hand because my dexterity just isn't as good in my non-dominant hand. For that reason, the fidget factor on here is extremely strong. I've got to give it, in good conscience, I have to give this knife a 9 out of 10 for fidget factor. Mainly due to the quality of that detent, which you do not see that quality of detent at $45. And the other reason is because of the action itself. Look at that, it just drops shut, no problem. And it's so smooth when it does it. It's not a vicious guillotine, chop your finger off kind of action. I haven't oiled this either, by the way. The last 2 or 3 weeks I have not oiled it, and that's a testament to just how good those bearings are. The execution on that action is damn near perfect. So yeah, fidget factor, 9 out of 10. I said what I said. The next category is the lock. Now, this is a liner lock, and if you've watched my previous content, you probably know that I am not a huge fan of liner locks. I'm just not. However, on this one, you get the perfect amount of lockup. There's no blade play whatsoever on either side. A lot of times when you fidget with knives, especially knives that cost $45. Did I mention it costs $45? Guys, $45. When you fidget with knives this much that cost that little, typically it's very common for that pivot to become loose and for the blade to gain some play. That hasn't happened in pretty much 3 weeks. It hasn't happened, and it stayed centered the entire time. The lock is very solid, and because that lock bar is crowned, it's extremely comfortable. Now, I'm going to call out a very well-known and popular YouTuber right now who shall go unnamed, but they did mention that they thought that this lock bar needed some jimping, and they will remain unnamed. But I'm just going to say this: with all that access to the lock bar, I have not once had my thumb slip over that lock bar. Like, I don't even have to look at it. The side of my thumb fits in there perfectly. Never have any issues. The only issue I did have was, and I will say this, if you're not careful, it will close on your thumb. And I don't know if you could see that little boo-boo that's healing right there on the top of my other thumb. That's exactly what happened. So the issue is not, in fact, that you have to worry about your thumb slipping off that lock bar, but more that it's so smooth that you might forget your thumb's in the way, and that sharp blade will remind you that your thumb is in the way. For that reason, I'm going to score it as 7 out of 10, which is high for a liner lock. I am not a huge liner lock guy, and on this one, I got to give it a 7 out of 10. It does everything better than average, except for the fact that it's a liner lock. So, it is what it is. Moving on, the next category is fit and finish. And this is the last category. We've done materials, we've done ergonomics, we've done fidget factor, we've done the lock, and now we're doing fit and finish. Fit and finish is how well executed is this knife. You know, it's not just about whether or not there's anything that wasn't manufactured well. It was how well executed is the knife. And guys, it's really good. The thought that goes into the small things, like this jimping that is the perfect size of an average thumb. The fact that the lock bar is crowned because they knew that it was going to be something that people would want to fidget with. And the contouring of the handles. All of that equals a knife that you're going to want to hold on to for a very long time. It's something that's very easy to carry. It's not super heavy. It comes in about 3.3, 3.4 ounces. And it's something that you can hand your friends. You know, it doesn't have this crazy weird locking design, and you know, like if you lose it, it would suck, but you can get another one for $45. This Dundee is a done deal. Not only is the blade perfectly centered, not only is the lockup strong, not only did they nail the execution, it's not perfect. If they had made this a frame lock, right-handed individuals would have full access to that fuller, and you could do what left-handed individuals can do, which is use it to fidget with. As you can see, I'm still learning how to fidget with my left hand, simply so that I can fidget with this knife. It goes without saying that even though that fuller is hard to use as a right-handed individual, the flipper tab is the best flipper at $100 or less price point that I've encountered. So for those reasons, it's not perfect, but it's pretty damn close. I've got to give it an 8 out of 10. So here's what that equaled out to on our scoreboard. Are you surprised? Materials is a 7. Ergonomics is an 8. Fidget Factor is a 9. The lock is a 7. And fit and finish is an 8. Guys, I love this knife, and they're making them in so many different color varieties. You really can't go wrong. I'll tell you what, they were kind enough to give me a discount code. If you want to give this knife a try, if you want to check out the micarta, if you want to check out this OD green, I'll post my links down below, and also my 10% off discount code, which would bring this to about $40, even better, is Bestechman 14. I'll put it up here on the screen, and it'll also be in the description below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comments section. Guys, that's all I've got for you. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, boo-hoo, there's a button for you too. And if you want to see more just like it, make sure you hit subscribe. Other than that, I'll see you on the flip side.